JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, November 7th, 9/17. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at. Go from there. S&P futures in the red. We're kind of flat overnight, and then a pull started about 4 this morning, maybe a little earlier than that, and been bouncing around ever since. Not much in the way of counts, right? Today, at this point, I'd be talking about the October jobs report, which didn't come out. So now it just kind of leaves the markets there to kind of guess how bad are things or how good are things or are they not? You know, how's inflation? We don't know outside that CPI data we got. There's not much in the way of data. So it's kind of like I wouldn't say going blind with the blinders on like a horse, but I put the analogy this morning on the watch list. It almost feels like the market is like the little kid on the bike with the training wheels, and now the economic data is those training wheels, and those training wheels have been taken off. So is the kid gonna ride the bike without the training wheels on, or is he gonna fall? So for now, take a look at the S&P's down 1.7% on the week. The Nasdaq's down over 2.8% on the week. Are we gonna have a rally today, a reversal? From some of my favorite days are these Friday gap down reversal days. So we're getting the gap down. Are we going to bounce? 10:30, 11 o'clock, typically the time where we can kind of figure out if we're going to bounce or not. That's usually where the moves have been, whether it's been markets rallying to highs at 11 o'clock, and that's the highs of the session, or we hit the lows and then bounce. So that would kind of be it. But to me, it's like there's no difference between what happened on Wednesday when we had the 1% sell off, or what happened yesterday where it's the rally, 3/4% rally on Wednesday, and the sell off yesterday, and same with Tuesday. So, nothing's changed. Yesterday we had AMD was down 7%. It opened in the green. You thought, oh, continuation from its earnings. When it had its earnings, the stock reversed its morning losses and rallied close to up 4%. And then yesterday, no news, no catalyst, nothing really changed. It just decided today we're going to sell off. So we'll see how things play out here. It's funny, the headlines, right? Everybody's talking about the AI bubble, and they've been talking about for weeks now. It seems like all those negative catalysts or potential negative catalysts, they all sound louder, or the rumblings sound louder when the market's selling off, right? The record amount of debt that U.S. households are holding, right? Doesn't matter much when markets are all-time highs, but when we have weakness and we're coming off a 1% sell-off, then it's oh my gosh, housing markets are doing horrible. And like all those, there was an article, I don't know if it was yesterday, talking about the amount of houses. I'm trying to think what the article was, but I looked at the person who wrote the article, and it was like a negative report on the housing market. And that was yesterday, the day before. And the lady wrote two articles, and the other from the Wall Street Journal. The other article was in February of this year, and it was pretty much the same exact wording on some of the stuff. It's like she copied and pasted it and just changed some of the dates. So the same negative narrative or negative piece that she wrote rang true with the same stuff in February. So it's just funny. A lot of it's timing, right? At some point, all that stuff will matter. But for now, can't just sit there and try and get feared into, loading the boat on puts and not having any optimism that there could be a rally or a bounce. And not only that, I play a lot of short-term stuff. So we could be in the midst of a crazy sell off next week, but I'm sure as heck open to buying some short dated calls if I get a chance, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. I talked about 673 on the SPY. That was a big spot. We're obviously under that here today. So I said once we broke that, I'd be a little more aggressive on the put side. So I'll continue to be so, especially if we don't find a bounce at 10:30, 11. The other thing to note too, and I put this in a watch list, it almost feels like eerily similar to February, where the markets were kind of chopping around, the 50-day moving average was looming, and then it almost looked like a bear flag. And sure enough, we were at 580 or so on the SPY. And then I thought 540. Of course, we got to 540, but then we got all the way to 480 with the April 7th Liberation Day lows. So hopefully we don't get a deja vu scenario or duplication of that, but you just got to be open to the possibility that's there, right? That's that overall markets. And then, of course, the funny thing is the markets sell off yesterday and yields declined. So if there's one thing that I want to see happen that I think would give a little more optimism is that the 10-year gets back under 4%. All right, that's overall markets. Just quick on individual names. Frustrating day for some of the names that I was hoping for follow-through days. First, obviously, Lemonade opened at 79, all the way up to 82 right after the open. Funny, I was actually looking for some 100 strikes and the 105s on that spike. So the first thing I did is lock more of my November 21st 90 calls out for 300%. And then I have a couple of those left, so I figured I was going to hold those and then get some higher strikes. And then it broke back under 80. And then I was like, I'll just sit on my hands, and ended 78, then 77. So I just sat on my hands for the rest of the day on lemonade. I'll continue to look for opportunities to play that for upside. No sense in trying to chase it just yet. Maybe just consolidation before the next leg. Upper Bollinger Band 72.71. So maybe, if there's continued weakness today, or at least pullback, maybe that might be an area of interest. Got down to 72.45 here in the pre-market. But great trade there on Lemonade this week. And then Solar Edge, right? I was posting, it's like all these analysts, even the bullish analysts, have price targets at like $35. And here's Solar Edge in the 40s. And normally on a day like yesterday, Solar Edge would be down 7 to 10%. And it was holding its ground until the afternoon. Found some weakness down to 38 and then bounced end of the day all the way into the 40s again. But then I think it was like the last 15 minutes went from 41 all the way down to 39. Closed at 38.88. Obviously, I have to get the rest of my 37s out. I still have some of the 45s I locked in for free. If it holds ground today and the market founds a bid, I'm going to trade calls to play for a move into the 50s. Take a look at this chart. I mean, big spot here at 42. I think once that falls, it's off to the races. So that's Solar Edge. I know we got 7 minutes here to the open. And then on the flip side, so obviously 673 is a key spot. Always try to have a play, right? Always be hedging, or it's tough to try and time the bottoms. I'm not going to sit here and have and just get puts just to hope for pullbacks. And sometimes I'm not hoping, but I do have a plan. The plan was 673 breaks. I'm going to look for some puts. That's what I did yesterday. Lamb Research. I was looking at ASML again. I was looking at Broadcom. I was looking at Oracle. And Lamb had the best risk reward, I thought, on the put side. I think it was 164, 165. I went and got to 157.50s. Within an hour, I was able to close some out to cover costs. Sold some more for 100%. I held the rest. Have a couple here. I'm sure they'll probably open flat at the open, depending. It's 160 here in the pre-market. I might hold them just until 10:30, depending on what the market does, because if there is some kind of pull, 3-4%, you're talking it's going to be 156. Those calls will be up a couple 100%. So I'll just continue to hold those puts. So I'll hold those. Also later in the day, Adobe finally under that 327 handle. I talked about that being a key spot. Added some more puts in the afternoon. I think it heads to $300. So we'll see. It's chopping around here this morning. It's not the most volatile name. So some of these names, especially the ones that have gone really, the DeSantis, the Seagates, the Western Digitals that have had some monster moves, those will have some large swings up and down. Unfortunately, Adobe, it's not the most volatile name. So to wait for it to get 300 might take some time. And of course, when trading options, time is not a thing that works with you for the options. So hopefully it happens sooner than later. It stays under 327 today. I think $300 comes relatively soon in the next week or two. I'll still look for more strikes on that one. Lamb Research. Oh, Netflix, right? So Netflix, it's had splits. I think 2004, 2015, and 2025. So last time it had its split, it ran up 4% into the split date, and it's the effective date, right? So not a huge move, but typically these names, especially names that are, take a look in the thousands now, they have some swings and moves into their split date, so usually to the upside, right? And I'm surprised Netflix still hasn't got going this week. So I don't know if that's an opportunity. The effective date's November 10th, but I think is Monday. So I might look for some spec lottos, especially maybe 11, 12 o'clock today, maybe even into the afternoon for some crazy, I wouldn't call it crazy, but it's probably not pricing in. The options right now, the 11-10s are expensive. I think it's the 11-10s are expensive, but maybe after the open, 11:30 or so, I might look for some lottos just for a bump up into the end of the day on Netflix for that split. That's Netflix. What else was I looking at here? Expedia monster quarter, and I think similar to what happened with Solar Edge, right? It wasn't like a monster being raised, but a lot of these names have been beaten up because all the narrative around travel and consumer discretionary spending that's so negative that some of these names don't even have to post this tremendous quarter for it to rally. Stocks up like 25 bucks here. Not a name I've traded recently. So, but at the same token, some of these names on a Friday for option expiration on a earnings smash up or follow through, what have you, might offer some decent risk reward. So I'll be watching Expedia. Got those trip calls yesterday. Inexpensive, 18 strikes. Looked like I was playing for breakthrough, and sure enough, Trip did what it's been doing. Sold it off just like it did on its Starboard News that presentation. Still like this one to get revalued at some point into the 2020 handle. Unfortunately, the market's not agreeing with me right now, but maybe it does at some point. When it does, the premium is going to explode. Anyway, let's have a great day. Got 3 minutes to open. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.